Hi, this is Dan Devlin for the Detective Dan Devlin Show, Honorable People, Honorable Nation. Welcome to our show. Hope everyone is having a great day. I want to take the opportunity to thank you for tuning in, watching our videos. We believe that they're important. We believe that they will help make us honorable people, and we will, as a result, have an honorable nation. But it takes you paying attention. If you disagree, you need to contact us and let us know that you have a different opinion. You can do that at info or Dan, D-A-N, at honorablepeoplehonorablenation.org. Today our program is about mass shootings and guns. Now, recently we've had a number of shootings, one in El Paso, Texas, the other in Dayton, Ohio. And I believe the death toll is up to 31 combined, and plus there are many injured as well. And we've experienced this before, and as you likely know, oftentimes there are many people upset. Everyone's calling for all kinds of gun control in particular, instead of person control. And we're divided into those groups that say we need to remove all the guns, and those who believe individuals have a right to keep and bear arms if they are good, decent, responsible individuals. I know of no one other than criminals who want criminals to have guns. But it's important to understand what's happening with this subject. We always use this as a divider marker. Those who believe that good, innocent people should have guns available to them are called all kinds of names by those who say that the people don't need firearms. And I always have to point out that many of the people who are claiming that you shouldn't have a firearm available to you are officials who we have placed in office. We allow them to supposedly serve us, and they are surrounded by individuals with firearms. Oftentimes they're on a law enforcement detail specifically to provide security for that mayor, that governor, congressman, president, and all the ones in between. Have one threat, and even the lowest politicians can normally get someone from law enforcement in order to be around and help them be safe. Having said that, isn't it ironic that those same people who are protected by firearms believe that you, who you do not have all those means available, could you call the police? Certainly. What is the response time for those officers? Do you think the governor feels as though, gee, I'm a little afraid today, I'll call up a state trooper and I'll have him come over to protect me? Or are they there as a preventative measure? And are they there whenever the governor is out in the public or wherever he's going? Is there someone posted at his door or in the building that he's at in order to protect him? Recently, a city government decided that security was so important for the people in City Hall that they were going to spend likely millions of dollars in order to have private security, in order to have everyone who comes to that facility go through metal detectors potentially be searched, their belongings searched, because the people in that office are in fear. Do you think those people care that most of the violence happens in the communities that these people are responsible for? Do you think the people in Chicago, where there are just tremendous numbers of shootings, and I'm not going to give you the figure because somebody will go ahead and say, oh no, that's wrong, it's a little more, it's a little less. So you can look it up. We live in this age where you can go to the internet, you can find out what various people have to say those numbers are. And those are normally deaths that they report. Look at how many people are injured, oftentimes drastically affecting the rest of their lives. Being in a wheelchair, or being unable to walk, being able to think properly, people being shot while at home in their bedroom, young kids, young children who are just being young children, and they die or they're injured because we allow, and that's right, we allow this type of violence to happen. Those numbers are far more than the number of those 31 or whatever the number is in these two incidents, in particular in El Paso and Dayton, Ohio. But everyone will get up in an uproar, and heaven knows, if you don't know me well enough by now, you should know that all of these lives matter. You can't even say that nowadays without people from the various communities saying he's a racist because he's saying everybody matters. No, it's Black Lives Matter. Well, I believe that it's also that Black lies matter. And when we're lied to by those who are catering to and often part of various minority groups, they have very specific reasons for doing so. And that is because they can't stand the thought of you and I actually liking each other and being respectful and treating each other as we wish to be treated. They have no choice, and this is evil in progress. They have no choice but to push people who are listening to them to feel as though some way, quote unquote, white people are belittling them or trying to take advantage of them as people of color. And so therefore, the remedy is to hate them and continually refer to them as white supremacists or any number of other names. I want to mention that if you want to know my position on black and white issues, you should know that that in itself is a lie. And I hope you'll go to the painting that I created and gave to the world titled Humanity's Torch, that deals with solving problems and the understanding, the knowledge that we need in order to most effectively and honestly solve our problems. And of course, that's a graphic representation. I sent it with the poem Your Gift, which somewhat gives an indication of what that painting is about. Spend some time with it. I actually gave it to those who were living in 1989 or around that time period. and they can pass it along to their descendants if they choose. But I did that because these things that we're doing are important to all of us. The decisions that we make are important to all of us. When we have members of the media who are fostering, encouraging this hatred between racial groups, they're doing it to serve their own agenda. The political figures who are now our officials, who we allow to remain in office, are calling, in fact, they're calling the President of the United States not only a racist, but a white nationalist or white supremacist. They'll think of anything. They're looking for triggers that will make you, as members of these so-called minority groups, hate, and that's what they are. They're hate mongers. They want to push you to hate their opposition. And their opposition is the conservative movement. The conservative movement that says, we want to give you the opportunity to be the best you can be. And we will try to provide that opportunity so you can excel, so you can be the business owner, so you can have better jobs. But all these are stepping stones, and you need to be able to say, I'm willing to start at the bottom of the ladder, which is where most of us start. True, there are people who have tons of money and their children have many benefits. Get over it. That's life. And if you were one of their children, you would have those benefits, and would you be saying, no, I want to start at the bottom rung? You and I both know that that's not reality. Hopefully you would do good things, and there are people who have money who are doing good things to benefit all types of communities, whether it's Hispanic, whether it's what people call black, and you know that this issue of black and white is a facade. I've never met a black man, while there might be someone who is literally black, I've never met a white person. And yet those terms are used because it's a quick and easy way to foster hatred between all of us. Now, what about these shooters? Supposedly they happen to be so-called white. I don't know their background. I don't even know if I've seen a picture of those individuals. But there's an expression that's going around in various commentators that would indicate that this is because of white supremacy. Now, I know that many of you in various minority communities, you have been the target of people who have probably called you names. Maybe done things that you feel as though they wouldn't have done if someone was that particular person's race. But I want you for a minute to jump over into the other person's intellect, their thought process. You wonder why these shooters are involved in this activity? Think of what you have been saying, and I say you, I don't mean you personally, but you know that various minority leaders and many, I'll call them politicians because in my book, they are not valid public officials because they are violating the principles of the United States and oftentimes the Constitution of the United States, which makes them unable to hold office. Now, we need to be courageous enough. We need to understand that we're in charge, and we need to make sure that those people don't continue in those offices. But that's another issue that we'll cover at another time. Right now, we will look at the situation where these individuals who are shooters are, of course, and it's to be expected, spoken very poorly of, sometimes indicated to have mental issues, to be vengeful against certain minority groups. And many of the things that perhaps they posted in the social media would lend to believing those things. And even if it's absolutely true, what we fail to do is ask why. Members of the media often throw out the questions, well, no one can understand this. Why does this keep happening? There's all kinds of expressions that are used in frustration, and their only answer is to take the guns away. I'm going to ask you a question. If someone was set on doing a violent act, would you rather have them pick up a semi-automatic rifle or handgun and go to some location and start shooting people? Or would you rather have him figure out how to make a bomb in order to explode that and do as much damage to individuals and structures such as buildings? Or would you rather have him use a truck in order to run down 30 or 40 people in a marketplace? And there are things that I'm not going to go into that if somebody wanted to create the most massive number of deaths and injuries that are much simpler than those means I've just explained. So I think when you think about this, and knowing that people have used airplanes in order to cause the death and the destruction that we've seen on the streets of New York City on September 11th, when the individuals involved flew aircraft into the Twin Towers. I've seen figures, I don't know what they actually are, but in the high 2,000 and approaching the 3,000 in number of the deaths because of that action. How about in the Morrow office building in Oklahoma City, where so many innocent individuals were killed? Is this the type of thing that you want, or would you actually prefer for someone who is that mindset to have a firearm and individually go and take individual lives? All of those lives matter. When they are innocent individuals, we have a responsibility to them to do what we can in order to protect them. But we as a society have said, you don't have the right to protect yourself. Recently in Buffalo, New York, there was a legislator who went into a city school and he had a carry permit for a firearm. And he realized he shouldn't be on the grounds with that firearm, so he asked the principal if he would lock it in a safe area. That happened. But when people found out about this, they were in an uproar and they talked about how terrible it was that he would bring that firearm there. I'll tell you one thing. People may have said, well, he's broken the law. He's broken a law that is not valid in this country if you believe in the Constitution of the United States. The Second Amendment, which says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's about security. And all the people who condemned him for doing that, even though it was kind of a thoughtless act, and even though it was locked in a safe place, you and I know that if a shooter came on that property and he was unable to get to that firearm in order to protect those children, we all would have wished that he would have had it on him. He seems like a responsible adult, seems like he knew how to use that firearm, and he has a fundamental human responsibility to care about and protect those individuals who were in that building that he was in. But that is the insanity that we have reached. Rather than understand that good, decent people protect innocent people, oftentimes risking their life, and there are ways to make sure that they are capable of doing that, or at least encouraging it. Instead, we say no firearms. Do you honestly think that people who are set on harming you, do you think these shooters in El Paso and Dayton would have said, well, I can't legally have a firearm, and so I'm going to, I'm either going to wait until I can legally purchase it, or I'm going to do something else. I'm going to use whatever means I can, and I hesitate here because I can tell you some ways that are very easy. But I'm not going to do that. And so, anyone thinking about this, they have options. And so I think that most people would agree that they would rather have that person go out and purchase or obtain a firearm and start on his shooting spree than to have him take the additional steps and destroy 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times the number of people that they could destroy in a situation like that. And furthermore, if you have responsible people, if in Kmart there would have been someone who was capable of using a firearm in order to stop him, initially, of course, we would all know that that individual would be a hero. But if he had that gun, supposedly what people say is illegally, they would still try to persecute him and prosecute him. Bernard Goetz in New York City in the subway, he's an example of that. Prosecute the man. He saved people from harm, but yet prosecute him anyway. When our laws make no sense, when our laws violate the premise, the specific wording of the Constitution of the United States, we're in trouble because we allow it to happen. All of the speech that goes on involving these shootings, for the most part, I should say, are to misdirect you to think that the answer is taking firearms away from good and decent people. I've talked to prosecutors in gun cases who have admitted they would want the person who's being charged with illegally possessing firearms, they would want that person to come with those firearms if they were the only one who could protect that prosecutor and his family if they were threatened by a number of people who didn't even have a firearm. It's about the truth. The truth suffers because we ignore it. In the last video, I talked about the feminization of the American male mind, and this is where we've come from. We've said, let's feel sorry for people. We can't have this violence. Violence is there. It's been with us from the beginning of humanity. And there doesn't have to be any logical reason for it occurring, although I would say these young individuals who oftentimes are involved in these things in order to get back at society because they are tired of people belittling them, calling them names, threatening their future in a decent society because of their so-called white race. So there are answers. And as humanity's torch hopefully will provide you some help in this area, we need to sift out all this misdirection and ask what really helps the problem here. Above all, I found that mutual respect, being able to be respectful enough to listen and try to solve the problem before it occurs, is much more likely the answer than blaming and encouraging hatred afterwards. It's about understanding what is right before our eyes. We have the answers to these things. If we will take away that misdirection, if we will not fall prey to those who deal in hate, and the haters often call their opponents the haters. They have to do that. Evil has to do that. Because they can't depend upon the truth, because if the truth is known, they will lose. And we will be a more honorable society. We will have a more honorable nation if we can find the courage to look for the right and just solution and not be pulled into the simple area of blaming others needlessly and based upon false information. It's within our power to seek wisdom, the truth. And I implore, I encourage, I plead with folks from all communities to seek the right and just solution without blaming others who we know are not the problem. So it's all up to you. It's in your hands. God bless you. I hope you have a great day. Make us an honorable nation by becoming honorable people.